verse 18, it says, "If the world hates you, you know that it hated me first before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my words, they will also keep your words. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would have no sin, but now they are with no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father." And then at the end of verse 25, it says, "They hated me without cause." And this is something that the American church, the Western churches in Europe, have never really experienced. We haven't been hated. We haven't been persecuted or imprisoned because of our Christianity. It's not something that we've experienced. We've had freedoms. We've been able to go to church and preach and teach and say whatever we want because we have these freedoms. And so we haven't experienced this, what Jesus is talking about. We do to a certain extent because we're not part of the world, we're not of the world, and so we live differently. But basically, if you go back 70 or 80 years, most people were Christians. Most people at least thought they were Christians, and there wasn't that persecution. We're now entering a phase where there's a distinct difference between believers and non-believers. We've seen it at the Olympics in the opening procession, right? We've seen that they used LGBTQ and they mocked the Last Supper. It's things that make your skin crawl. I immediately wanted to abandon or not watch the Olympics, but I felt the Lord tell me, and then a pastor confirmed it. Hey, listen, Jesus didn't boycott humanity after they treated him that way. So we're called to walk in love, but there is a righteous anger, I think, that comes on us. But here's the thing, and here's why. Jesus explains that the world loves its own. That's what he says. The world doesn't know God. It doesn't know Jesus. So the world will look at our lifestyle, we'll look at our attributes, we'll look at our perspective, we'll look at how we look at things. For instance, LGBTQ. We don't hate anybody that participated in that. We're called to love them, but we never want to mock the Lord. But we never, ever want to hate somebody for being ignorant. I mean, Jesus prayed for those that were executing him, said, "Father, forgive them. Why? They know not what they do." So basically, the Bible is telling us that we here in America and the West, Western Europe, will suffer persecution, will be set apart as outcasts of society, will be hated because of our true paradigm of living through biblical things. And so we are going into this with no experience in this. If we were born in China or India or Saudi Arabia, this would be a normal thing. But it's not normal for us. So we need to learn, we need to understand that while the persecution comes, and while the hatred comes, and while the reproach comes, and while being an outcast and not invited and being talked about, while all of that comes, we need to walk as Jesus walked. We need to learn that God loves us even when we're in pain. God loves us when we're being persecuted, when we're in famine, when we're in nakedness, when we're in war. God loves us. He never abandons us. And it doesn't mean we're doing something wrong. It actually may mean we're doing something right. So we need to understand this is changing now. There's a distinct change going on in the spirit. And we are walking into more darkness. And the world actually is preparing itself, if you watch the Olympic opening, for the welcome of Antichrist on the world scene in the next decade or two. And so we need to understand things are going to change, and we need to understand our hearts need to be prepared. Anyway, thank you for watching today. Please share, follow, and like this. And please pray about donating to us, joining us as a partner for $25 a month or more. It's a little bit of a sacrifice, but a little bit of a sacrifice from 400 people or so will help us produce curriculums, give books away. We don't charge anything.